Two different stories. One moment of connection, a question and answer. No space in between. This is Bridging the Spaces.
Hey, my name is Nadir. I'm a storyteller and content creator.
Hi, my name is Chef Noel. I own the brands The Sweet Life, Snap City Chocolates, and Fatty Case.
Today we're going to be having a conversation exploring this theme of bridging the space between.
You often talk about identity in your films. What moment in your life made you realize storytelling was your bridge to belonging?
Gosh, I think very young, I came from a family where we told stories around the table. And for someone who comes from so many cultures like myself, the way that we make sense of our identity is through telling stories, through experiences, communicating that with other people. My father would tell me stories of his cultures through stories and through parables that he was told when he was younger. And that's how I understood mine. At my house, the dinner table was when we all kind of came together and told the stories of the day. Like, you had to be a good storyteller on that table. Otherwise, you would just be silent and no one would take you seriously. So really, story became a language that we all understood very young. And I think being a good storyteller just means being able to communicate your sense of self to other people in a way that they understand. So it's about understanding yourself. It's about understanding who you're telling the story to. And I realized when I was young, that I just had a natural ability to do that, crafted by my unique home and the stories we would tell over the table. And then I started to realize that when I would do that through work, people really connected with that on a deep level. So I have to thank my parents more than anything for drilling that sense of storytelling into me when I was very young. Nice. All right, so we both build bridges between people, emotion, and understanding. What's the hardest bridge you've had to build within yourself?
The hardest bridge was actually acknowledging your vulnerability and also being accountable for things you've done before. But I think most importantly, coming from an Asian background, we are very humble, very hospitable, so we always take a step back. And with a recent success it's been around for years now, about Dubai chocolate, which people have always been telling me about or asking me about, it's when you take up space and actually knowing that humility is also about saying, hey, I've done something and the world needs to know. That's very important. And that's a conversation I always have had about when do I need to say, yes, I've been part of it, or do I have to say it? And recognizing that is actually something you need to bridge together, to really just accept it and take ownership. Because if you don't, nobody is gonna know about your story. There's no one gonna be inspired about your story. People who identify with you wouldn't be able to know that there's a voice that actually will be championing them. So it's a difficult conversation, but you just have to be humble enough and acknowledge that we need to just be out there and be amazing and tell our story, and there's nothing wrong with that. And before, that was my challenge. I had an imposter syndrome, and coming out of the dark was really the best thing ever. And now I'm cheering for a lot of people, whether it's Asian or non-Asian. It's all about people who want to take up space with their dreams, making it realized, man, it's the best thing ever because you are part of that movement. And that movement is really something that comes from the heart.
That's so inspirational. I do have a question. Your sense of self came before Dubai chocolate or it came after it? Like, could you only create Dubai chocolate when you had a sense of security within yourself? Or did it come from the success of the product itself when you realized how much it meant to people? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Everything came from love, from passion. So it was really not intentional to do something that becomes viral. It is just something that I believe I could do best, put on the table and celebrating everyone's culture, especially here in the UAE. And I've always been told I've been putting on the table the Emirati culture through the recipes I do. So I think what came first was really that kind of the ability to tell my story through recipes. And what happened with the recipe for Dubai chocolate was kind of a moment where people just needed to know what you've been doing consistently for years, just needed to happen. And I believe in how God is planning us for the greatness and for a time where we needed to do it. So I would say the other one came first before the virality of, Dubai chocolate came about.
It's interesting because, like you said, like so many Asians feel like they don't have a role to play or they have an inferiority complex for
Yes.
coming to this region. But do you feel like what you've proven is we have so much to contribute and so much to partake in the sense of pride and identity of this region?
It's actually a lot of responsibility because you are now bringing a million voices, if we put it that way. And you have to be not really careful, but you have to be very mindful of what you say, what you do. It's not because you don't want to be yourself, but by being yourself, you're actually making them feel more attached, and also you are more relatable, just like how you tell your stories, because people can see the real you and they know it's not a fake thing we're doing. We're doing this because we love what we do, and also we want to tell the stories of other people. And
Absolutely.
it's also the same thing I'd like to ask you actually about how you bridge, the gaps. Like, I know you tell stories of other people, but how do you make sure you don't also lose your voice while telling other people's stories?
That's a great question. Sometimes you can get lost in the multitude of experiences and stories that you forget which one's your own. And stories, look, for me, how I see it, is stories are the most historical way of communicating with other human beings. Through stories, we communicate experiences, threats, dangers, lessons, and it's through stories that we grow and evolve as human beings. And I am an incessantly curious person. If I'm addicted to anything in life, it's curiosity.
It is.
I have this insatiable need to hear about the experiences and the lives of as many people from different walks of life as possible. And through that, I feel like I come out a better person. By interacting and communicating with people that have had such a rich life or have rich experiences to draw from, I'm able to take from their lessons and from the things that they've learned and apply it to my life. And I just feel so much gratitude when people share it with me. I feel like a part of their story becomes my own. And I think that's the power of story, is we realize that actually, like, no story ultimately is our own. And as you go and you listen to as many as possible, you start to realize we all have a role to play in each other's stories. And the world feels a little bit smaller when I've done that. I travel to places far and wide, and I start to feel like I'm part of the story of that place. And when people make me feel that way, I think it's such a beautiful feeling that people should experience as much as possible, because whatever division, whatever divide that we kind of cripple ourselves with, when you take time to empathetically hear a story and deeply resonate with it and change your life according to what you've learned, the world becomes a much more beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with you because nothing is perfect, and as much as we want to achieve perfection, we shouldn't forget that we are human and
100%.
we make mistakes. I think the best thing about your story is we pick up, like you said, we pick up the pieces and also the values we collect from wherever we are getting the stories from, or the people especially, and we develop that kind of sense of awareness, and we grow as well along with our stories that we hear. And I think that's the most impactful thing about bridging gaps, because if we don't know much about a certain culture, we tend to judge and have prejudice against this culture. But once we know more about other people's culture, and I'm really admiring your multicultural background, you're a citizen of the world, and that's great because you have a lot of lenses in your eyes, and you see things differently than any normal person.
I hope so. I think it was very difficult growing up. I'm not gonna lie to you, because you had so many pulls. You felt like you were going in different directions. And then the skill, like you said, is understanding that actually these cultures are very similar. If you scrap away the cosmetic differences and the superficial differences, you start to realize that the soul and the energy and the blood that determines these cultures are actually very similar. But I loved your question. I think to answer it properly is, you do have to be careful in that context of stories everywhere, because if you're not convicted in your own story, you'll start to rely on other people's to make sense of your own. And really, you can only be a good storyteller if you understand your own story in a deep way. So I think a lot of it is being grounded in your sense of self before being able to take on the responsibility of sharing other people's stories.
That's right.
You can only be a good storyteller if you understand your own.
Exactly. It has to be coming from a place where has been a lot of pain, suffering, also a lot of love. That's why we travel. I travel through my recipes, by the way, with my chocolates, and also celebrating everybody else, including mine, because I always tell people that I am a chef for a reason, because this is my tool of actually putting or bridging gaps and also putting people together and celebrating the community. And if I could have been a doctor, but God told me you're a chef because your recipes change people's lives, and that's the beauty of it. And what you do, capturing different experiences, and you share it to the world, is like us doing something together, and so
Beautiful.
it's just amazing.
So we both connect emotion and craft to what we do. But what do you think makes people remember? Is it the taste of something or the story you imbue it?
I believe both of them are actually connected, because first you need to taste to be able to collect those memories that are linked to those flavors that you've tasted. But the most impactful thing actually is, of course, the story that links with the taste of the recipes, for example, that I create. And this is really what, for me, a food or food in general should stand for. It's all about bringing you back to those memories, core memories in your childhood especially, and remember the happy moments. And that's the reason why we eat, because it's not just to sustain us, but also to bring back those memories with the family. Like you said, on the table, everyone's gathered, and we enjoy those foods cooked by moms, by dads, by our siblings, and also even from favorite shops that we used to enjoy as a kid. So taste is part of it, but what comes first really is, first you have to try it. When you taste it, that's when it triggers your memories to remember those moments that made you really happy, and also very much in your zone as part of the family, as a person, as a human being.
It's interesting because, like, if you're going to start creating recipes around the emotions and how it makes people feel when they eat it, you really have to have like a deep understanding of the emotions of a society or a culture, right? So when you come into somewhere like the UAE, or you're making recipes that emotionally connect with those people, how do you go about researching that? Because you didn't necessarily grow up with these nostalgic things, but you've come to know that these things mean something to people and started creating recipes from that. What's that thought process?
I always say stories about how I was able to capture the core memories of the Emiratis, for example, and through a recipe. And I always joke that maybe before I used to live here in the desert, and then I became Filipino after that. But I have just thought about it now. I believe it's a combination of a gift and also the technicality of being a chef. A gift because there are things that you cannot find through research.
Yeah.
There are things that you just have to trust your guts, and also how your memory and your feelings guide you to craft a recipe. And you say this is enough, because a recipe you can find anywhere. But when can you tell there's enough sugar in it, there's enough spice, enough saffron, cardamom? It's hard to create
100%.
a particular, I would say, system to tell you how you can say it's enough. And it's really guided by emotions. And also, I would say it's from a higher form of understanding about society in general. And I think if you're an open-minded person, you tend to have that gift. You welcome that gift
100%.
of, because that gift is the one that gives you the superpower to connect people through your recipes.
Yes.
So that's how I look at it.
Well, that's exactly, I'm so glad you said that, because actually I think it's a form of emotional intelligence, right?
Yes, exactly.
And like we talk about emotional intelligence in like romantic contexts or platonic contexts, but really you can show emotional intelligence through food. And what you're able to do is being like, I know what these ingredients do to people and what it makes people feel,
Yeah.
and you're able to create masterpieces as a result of that. So really it shows a really high level of EQ, and that's being translated through you as a food expert. But it's evident in everything that you create.
It doesn't happen by chance. There are things that you do because it hits the right emotions, the right chords, and especially playing with, I believe in my experience, that no single coffee bean tastes the same.
100%.
They always have their own level of flavor or acidity, or how it was farmed. Not every single ingredient you use are always the same, except for probably sugar or probably milk. But even milk, you have different kinds of flavors coming from different regions. So it really is up to, like you said, our own experiences, our higher intellect, when you can tell it's enough, and then you just say it's ready for everyone to partake and try.
Beautiful. Love that.
So you give people a voice through your content. Who's that someone that actually gave you your own voice?
Oh, yeah, I guess it has to be my father, my late father. I feel like I am a knockoff copy of my dad.
Really?
My dad is like the premium model. I'm the kind of one you see at those, like, you know, you go to those markets and dudes selling like copyright DVDs and all that kind of stuff back in the day. I feel like I'm that version of my father. He was so dynamic, charming. My dad had the best stories in the world. And even when they weren't great stories or they were just mundane things that happened, he would be able to make the most petty things feel like the most exciting things. My father had an innate ability to speak to people at the top of politics or royal families and someone living in the streets and treat them with the same respect, dignity. And those are qualities that I hope to copy as much as I can in my life. They've benefited me. But when I think of someone who I try to embody, someone who I try to replicate as much as possible, it's my father. I don't think I'll ever be as good, but my father grounded me in so many qualities that really helped my work in terms of connection and being able to share stories with people around the world. And I'm so grateful to have that model, that role of a father in my life. Yes, there are other people outside of the home, but to have your role model living in the home with you, I feel so blessed to have that experience because I know how much of a luxury it is these days. Right?
It is.
And I'm so grateful to have that. So my father, when I told him I want to do the things that I want to do, he got it. Super supportive. My only regret is that he wasn't able to see it manifest in the way that it's manifested right now. But I just know, well, I hope so. I pray that he would be incredibly proud of my efforts to platform voices, which I feel
I'm sure he is 100%.
But yeah, man, he is the person that gave me my voice. My father had this I was born and raised in London. Yes, I have an English accent. And there's something about the English accent that isn't particularly fun. My father was an Arab man, born and raised in Africa. He had this African twang, this sensibility, this energy, this body language, and it just gave him this charm that you can't teach.
You cannot teach charm, actually.
You can't.
It comes from within.
It comes from the nurtured environment that you grew up in. And I'll never be able to replicate that. But to be around it was so electric.
It is.
And so he's definitely the person that embodied my
Great.
voice for sure. Your chocolate feel personal, like they tell stories without words even. When you create, do you start with flavor or do you start with feeling?
I always start with the feelings that what I intend people to feel about my recipes. Everything is emotional in my opinion because that's how you remain true to what you're doing in life. If there's no emotion, we become robots. 100%. And I always trust my inner self, especially my feelings about certain flavors that I'd love to curate for people to try. And always, whenever they taste something, they always say, it reminded me of my childhood. It reminded me of my father, of my mother. And that's the greatest thing you can always do to other people, you know? Through recipes, you can actually
100%.
touch lives. And that's the important part of it. You know, I'm not here to just do recipes because I was tasked to do it, I was paid to do it. It's really more than that. It's more of a mission. It's more of my way of really giving back to the community by letting them enjoy something they probably missed for ages. And nobody has been able to capture that. But here I am, having that gift. I would love to use that gift to capture emotions through the flavors I create in my recipes.
Well, I think it's evidently you do. I see your food as a bridge. You're bridging people's experience eating with nostalgia and memory.
Exactly.
You are actually a bridge between feeling and flavor. And I see it in everything that you do. So I think absolutely your food is a bridge for sure.
Thanks, man. Man, I'm really having a great conversation with you and knowing your story. So I have a really good question to ask you.
Sure.
Would you be open to collaborate?
With you, absolutely, bro. I couldn't think of anyone more appropriate to collaborate with. You have, like I said, emotional intelligence. You see food as a lens, as a bridge.
It is.
And for me, these are exactly how I feel about story. I feel like together we create something that is not only just a culinary experience, but also a nostalgic story experience. And get really creative with it. Bro, absolutely.
And then you can create the voice through my recipe. So how cool is that for a collaboration?
Well, I would do my best to present the amazing work that you do, but I just feel like it's an amazing opportunity to take produce and food and ingredients and articulate that in a story that compels people to feel something really deep.
Man, I'm so already like pumped up for this.
I'm gonna hold you to this.
Yeah. All right.
Nader chocolate.
Yes. Perfect.
Double nuts, because he's extra nutty.
It is.
So if we created something together, let's say a content piece you could taste almost, what would it say?
It would say that food is a superpower that links people together. It's the way to bridge people together, because food encompasses any culture. It doesn't choose any faith or anything. It's just pure, because that's where all nostalgia comes from. And apart from being a source of sustenance, food is really a way of, it's a language in itself.
100%.
And through that, we can create a lot of layers of stories and voices through you.
Love that. You know, it's on camera now,
Yes.
so I'm gonna hold you to it.
We will, man. We'll do it.